You can delete
So I
one.
feel like you should know that this stream is just not even going to be recorded. Well,
So
recorded for us.
we can say whatever we want.
Yeah.
It just means here,
So
like it will be on YouTube when you want it.
there's no record. Hey, we're going to get artsy fartsy today, Carrie. We're going to talk about photography, which has suddenly become a thing I want to do a lot of and enjoying it a lot. And Ben Fraternale's at least rumored to join us at some point in the episode to talk about photography.
Running a little late.
Come on, Ben.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gargone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show. We've done this before.
Yeah. So what was it that got you back into wanting to take pictures kind of like that? Not even the old fashioned way. Obviously, there's a lot of old fashioned ways, but not like digitally from your phone.
Yeah. So I make lots of terrible choices. And every now and again, I say to myself, you know what I really want to do is I want to shoot things. I think I'm going to lay the blame at the feet of YouTubers. So I watch a lot of YouTube when I'm in between stuff. I do a lot of it for learning, but then of course, you know, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I've got to go and like learn and enjoy things. So I watch people like Peter McKinnon and I mean, obviously Casey Neistat back in the day. And Peter has been going through this whole thing of, you know, shooting film, like 35 millimeter film and that sort of thing. And I've been super obsessed with physical things that are a one of a kind or physical things that are a lot more analog than they used to be. So like I bought a record player and I shot a couple videos about that. And then right on the hoof of that, I started wanting to shoot photos. And so I started with a video blogger type camera called the Sony ZV-1F. The reason it's a video blogger camera is it's got that cool flip out screen.
Is that an old one or a new one?
It's a new one. It's like a newer. It's like a point or shoot. It's like less than $500. And then the one thing that was different was I was having fun shooting with it. I was doing all kinds of cool stuff. And then I found out you can buy an extra lens for it. So this extra lens that's on top of this is another $50, but it's this company called Neewer or Neewer, Neewer. You and I both have products from this company because they make lighting and they make other stuff. Hey, Chloe. So what this thing does, it turns out it's two lenses in one. It's got wide angle, so I can shoot kind of a longer shot. And then I can unscrew like half of the lens, which it feels weird in the field, but you can. And then it does macro, which is like super up close kind of shooting.
Oh, okay. So like when you want to get the details of like a flower.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll show you. So like when I'm out traveling now, I've been taking photos. Now, when you take photos, by the way, when you do them with like any old regular phone or something like that, you tend to shoot things like this. Just on person. Hey, DJ guy at the Atlassian team show. And he was nice and whatever. Now, the reason that photo exists, though, is because I had also used a Polaroid. The new company that bought all the rights to Polaroid, I used one of their point and shoot cameras that's like the old timey one. And I shot a picture of the dude. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And it took like 5 or more minutes to develop. And I don't know, he and I kind of like laughed about the fact that it was like a little blurry and a little whatever. And so that taking this shot was just me saying, let me shoot you with a real camera for a second. But what was fun was even though it kind of messed up a little, I was like, oh, that was actually fun. It was fun to shoot. You have taken over the years shots with your phone through Instagram. I've seen some really great shots. You have an eye for it as well. What do you think you're looking for when you're shooting your shots? What kinds of things excite you to film or whatever? What are you looking for?
Usually it's ideally it's something a little different than everybody else takes. Like I don't want to take the same shot everyone else takes. So whether that means like a different time of day or a slightly different angle, or maybe something's out of focus, like I take pictures of what I notice and what I like about it. So I don't want to just take a picture of like, I don't know, the wharf. Like I want to take a picture that shows you what I'm looking at. and that's not always easy. So like if I noticed a boat first, I'll try and show you the boat, and the wharf behind it will be like blurry or something. I don't know. It's not exactly a lot of thought that goes into it. I don't tinker with the settings. I just
Sure.
try to stand where I think I need to stand to show you what I want you to see.
I think
I've
that
used
the
apps
one
too.
was that you use
I
apps.
have it. Well, once upon a time, I used to experiment with like every possible app that came out for photography. So like literally making your photo into a marble in the middle of the space, like and refracting everything. I tried that. I tried ones that will strip all the color away from everything but one spot. I tried just basically every crazy app that came out when Instagram came out. I would try them all just to see like what they would do. But in the end, but better than filters or apps, I just like finding the right spot.
Yeah. And I think we all go through that journey, and especially when we're doing photography on our phone, I think we all go through that journey of, is there some way I could shoot this that'll make it more fun? Is there some version of this that'll look better? One of the things I get into a lot lately is black and white. So it's really kind of weird or funny to sort of strip back the color, even as technology is adding millions and millions of colors to things. I shot a picture of my mom and dad in Vegas. I don't even know if they're watching the show today, but they're there. That's just something to mom on the phone. And I was just like, I shot it for the color. So it was like the opposite of the things I think are kind of fun.
Guess who's here?
I see Ben backstage. Very busy Ben. This show is just about to go through the roof amped up. So we'll grab Ben. Hey, Ben.
Hey, what's going on?
There he is.
What's going on? I'm so sorry for the delay. I was on a call that was Polaroid themed, so I feel like there's some rationale that is almost excusable there. Almost.
Love it. So Backpack Ben has showed up. Ben, I think I have it right. It's Fraternale, right?
Yes, very good. Perfect.
I've heard people mangle your name many
Yes,
times.
there's been a lot of bizarre pronunciations. Thank you. And now I have a smile mug that's coming in from off camera.
Oh,
nice.
That's fun. That's fun.
You have Oompa Loompas?
Yes, there's Oompa Loompas inside it. By the way, I loved Wonka. Can we just say that I don't know a lot of people who saw it, but I know that I loved it. I don't know.
Not the experience in Scotland, because that didn't
No, not that experience.
All right. So for people on the show, I started stalking you pretty heavily a few weeks ago. I think I knew who you were in a roundabout way from places. I think you and I have been in some of the same places, but okay. I think I just fell right into your whole world on your YouTube channel in an instant, and not realizing, there's a thing like wherever you find someone in your journey, that's who they are, not like a guy who made all kinds of TV and commercials and stuff, who has a massive IMDb page. I was like, oh, this guy likes, instant photography. He seems nice.
So that's who he is.
All you are. But I wanted to show, at the risk of, ruining the topic I want to talk about, I wanted to show a little bit on your little website of your, I guess, sizzle reel, just so that people see what I absolutely didn't see when I was talking about you. So hang on, let me do a thing. Let me get to the site. Let me push this button and hope this works. Hi.
It's all business on the field. It's definitely no love in between the lines, only outside the walls.
Just finally get the opportunity to let the fans know that I did it so hard because I wanted them to be proud of me. That's why I did it so hard.
Let's call this an establishing shot. I wanted people to sort of actually visibly see your bona fides and see that you're like an actual grown-up who's done actual things, and not just Benny Bricks, Benny Bags, and all that. Ben, I want to start with, what the hell is wrong with you? Like this instant shit, like there's digital stuff. iPad just showed us yesterday that we should crush it all and put it in a tablet. I watched you tour the Polaroid plant. We have so many things to talk about. What is wrong with you?
So my main issue, let's see, what are my main flaws? Let me get my wife in here. Lauren, what's my main flaw? She says I care too much. No, I think
No, a real one.
a real one. Well, I feel like, the flaw that led me to making a YouTube channel is my sort of deep obsession with things and being unable to just be obsessed with something. I can't only love something. I also have to do it and become like a part of it. And that's I feel like my whole life has been like that. As you saw in that reel, which I'm actually kind of glad we showed for just referencing stuff, there's football stuff in there. And that league, the Arena Football League, I grew up with it. And that was sort of like my initial introduction to like video production, photography, design. As a kid, I was like, I love this league, but I also have to like make videos, and I also have to like make a podcast. This is before it was even called a podcast. Like, I was designing cards, like football cards for the players to sign. I was doing all these things that inadvertently I realized were teaching me a lot of skills in like media, but at the time were just a kid being obsessed with something. And the Polaroid channel and stuff like that crops up because I get obsessed with it. And I'm like, okay, how do I do it bigger? How do I meet more people? How do I do more stuff and have more fun with it? And that's what led us here today, I'll tell you.
So I've just realized that the two of you have the same thing wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. Which is, it's great. We love that, right, Lauren? She says, yeah. She says, yeah, and she said enthusiastically.
I found the next ex Mr. Lauren.
I think Lauren's in a box somewhere right now.
I'm going to switch places so I can show this comment without like squishing him out. There we go. Okay. I used to do our school yearbook for years, says Leslie, and love the variety of pictures, activities, sports, day-to-day stuff, fun pictures. Now I love just trying to take fun pictures of what is around me. That's it. She's our sugar mama, Ben. Had to get her comment in there.
Thank you, Leslie, for sprinkling sugar on us.
Syrup.
Yeah, speaking of Wonka.
Yeah, right, exactly.
One of the things that I've come to realize is that the people who make channels like yours, like In an Instant, you're enablers. Like,
sure.
I was on the last mile of deciding. I bought one of those baby Polaroids that they just came out with. I think it was the Go, and I was like, this blows. And so I gave it to my 18 and 21-year-old. And I said, put this up in the attic where you guys hang out and whatever. This thing blows. And then I bought the Instax 40. It's because of you. Like, I bought this because of your review, in which you have 65 other Instax lined around it, and you explain them all. And I'm like, oh, well, this seems like the one I need to buy. Yeah, right. You did this to me. So as I'm prepping for this call, I see the a year or so ago one out in the Redwoods with the Sprocket Rocket and Sprocket Photography. And I was like, you son of a bitch. Because now I think I have to buy one of those. Have you heard this before, that you're an enabler?
Yeah, there's like, to me, a mixed feeling about it, because there's like the capitalism aspect where it's like you're encouraging people to buy stuff. You just got to forget that that's part of it. You have to embrace the fact that like what you're selling it's like selling paintbrush to a painter. Like you don't feel that bad about doing that. They're gonna make cool stuff with it. Like, so I get that a lot, where someone's like, I can't believe you just done this to me. What's wrong with you? I hate you so much, but I love you. Like go away, but come back. Like that happens a lot, and I like it because I feel like it's drawing people in, and that's like the feeling you want, is like we're all getting into this together. But then I do feel bad sometimes, like people are, spending money, and money is points, I guess.
I'm glad that's your philosophy, because he didn't use an affiliate link. He just like
Exactly. No affiliate links really exist on the channel. So just for the love of the game.
So I have a million directions to go in, but one of the things that I'll say, I don't think the average YouTuber pays any attention to the hard things that you put in there, the details you put in there. I don't think they see them. I was watching your 8x10 one, and in the first maybe 10 seconds, Polaroid 8x10 shooting, in the first like maybe 10 seconds, you do this little clip with some jaunty music, and it's like do 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 do, and every single one of those notes is another image.
Yeah,
that was murdery. Question number one: are you doing this yourself? Question number two: does it ever just frustrate you that no one else is seeing it all?
That's a great question. The first answer is yes, I do everything myself, including the graphics and like all the motion graphics and all the editing. And I feel like as an editor, because I do a lot of editing, I do a lot of like directing and editing. Like typically if I'm hired to direct, I'm also editing. So I'm involved in the rhythm of the whole project. And when it comes to YouTube and comes to editing in general, like I can't not, it feels like sitting down at a keyboard to me, like not like a musical keyboard. Like I get into like the beats of everything. It's so important to me, and it's just how I edit. Which, oh, I just heard some feedback. And so I don't get frustrated that people don't notice that, because I assume no one's ever going to notice stuff like that. It's just the way it is. Like if you're a filmmaker, you get used to that. Like you end up focusing so much of your attention on something that absolutely will never register. But that's sort of like the fun of it too. And it's like where you need to find your own creative rhythm. And you have to understand that, like, even though people are not cognizantly like, oh, look at that cool thing he did, they're like feeling it or something, like it registers in some other way. So I tend to think of it like that. Like, even if they're not really noticing it or able to verbally point out what they just saw, they felt it in the way you feel like a song sweeps you somewhere.
Or it feels polished to them, or it feels
right. It's just got like a sheen on it.
So somebody was messing around backstage with stuff, and that's what the noise you heard. Somebody clicks constantly. Ooh. Even while interviewing people.
Somebody was queuing up what I was talking about so I could show a few seconds of somebody's video.
Also known as clicking around.
That's ridiculous. That's what I'm telling you.
You edit like my teenager.
And the eyes in that sequence are aligned. Okay, you know. You got it.
That's crazy town. And that's it's a good segue to the humor. You were so freaking funny. And 1963, so that's 58 trips around the sun, otherwise known as years. And you mentioned how light the Intrepid was, and then you said, but of course I am also very strong.
I mean,
so what I think that's just you normally. Do you think about it? Do you punch it up? Because it feels very unscripted. But what's the book?
That's really interesting to hear. I never really know what people think about the level of scripting that goes into the show. I would say, like, when I first started the channel, I would write a script that was more informational and then attempt to punch it up. And now those things sort of come as I write and just sort of naturally. But I do feel like it's important to spend like a couple of 1 or 2 a.m. moments with every script and just like pull it up right when you're feeling the most delirious and try to like just do something crazy. And then look at it in the morning. And if it's terrible or ridiculous or too ridiculous, or if it's too ridiculous, leave it. But if it's not ridiculous enough, then maybe we can edit it out. So I definitely do like a silly pass on a lot of And then there's a lot of like improv moments as well. Like I use like a prompter software, but there's plenty of gaps and stuff. So I'm just like, all right, I'll toss that in here and toss that in here. I'll do a couple takes. And so on the first take, I'll catch myself improvising something, and then I'll like do it again in the second take and just like make it a little cleaner. So that's like the rhythm of the humor to it. But it is I feel like it's dicey to be that ridiculous sometimes. Like I feel like there's some viewers who don't want that level of like chaos in their lives. They don't want to be like hit with some crazy bit out of nowhere that they absolutely weren't expecting. And occasionally here and there, I get a comment that's like, love the information, but like, what are you doing?
Well, so they're not your people. That's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Yeah. I don't take any offense to it because I'm like, yeah, it's fine that you don't.
They could like Google it and then do the pull down so they don't even go to a website. Like
Exactly. If you just want to read the spec, go to bnh.com. But if you want to, see some crazy stuff, come to an instant.
So some people like structured chaos. Like some
That's
people
true.
send questions while we're on the air. Let's see. He visited Polaroid's last factory in the Netherlands. Thank you, Brogan. So, Ben, you visited Polaroid's last
Yes.
factory in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that was like the best experience of my life. It's crazy having like a really like one of the best experiences of your life like occur, and like you're there and it's happening while it's happening. You're like, I can't believe this is happening right now. You can't get like over, essentially, just to back up a little bit, they had a campaign for a new type of film called Polaroid Reclaim Blue, which recycled a few materials from a different kind of film and put it into this new kind. And it was experimental, and it was something they tried and it worked. And they were like, okay, we should sell a limited edition version of this. And for some reason, I really am not sure even now in retrospect why they chose this product to be the one that they were like, let's send Ben out to the factory for this. It was like and we had a bunch of calls and they were like, yeah, we really just want a Reclaim Blue video. And I was like, what? You're sending me out here for a Reclaim Blue video? Like, we have to do a factory tour. We got to do way more than that. And so thankfully Polaroid was like, okay, yes, we agree with you. Actually, let's hire you a cinematographer to go with you, who I think flew in from like England or something. And they like hooked me up with like, do whatever you want. Here are the tools to do it, which is like unbelievable that they did that. They brought me out to Amsterdam, which is where their headquarters are. And then at 9 p.m. in the middle of the night, they swept me away on like this little minivan and drove me in the dark out into the woods, and brought me to this town, Enschede, which is like 2 hours, west of Amsterdam. Felt like in the middle of nowhere. Maybe it's not. I don't know the Netherlands that well. And I had this just day of, like, you can see in these highlights, just sort of breathlessly moving through back to Wonka. I mean, the chocolate factory. Like, I was just in it. And I prepared as much as I could to ask every person I ran into something. But at the same time, most of it just sort of came in the moment because it was such a barrage of like emotion and mental stimulation that I just had to be like flowing, and I felt like I was sort of out of body half the time. That was, yeah. The fact that I got to do that is like the most amazing. And that it's like a thing that you can go and watch. It's just like, that means so much to me.
Do you just get in black cars that pull up next to you now?
I do. Now I'm like, take me away. 2 hours.
No questions asked.
Yeah, as long as it's 2 hours west, then I'll get in.
That'll be interesting in California.
Yeah, exactly. You end up swimming a lot.
So what was most surprising about that visit? Like, you said that you'd prepared to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
I'm sure you ran into some people that you were like, wow, do I have no idea what they're doing?
I feel like the most surprising vibe that I caught was like, I don't know. It was a factory, and I was advised that like, this is a factory, by the way. They tried to lower my expectations, which I don't know what they were doing. Like, it didn't matter what you said to me. I was like the most excited you could ever be to be there. And so I feel like half the surprise was how like warm it was in there. It is a factory. You sort of imagine it's like a bunch of kerklunks and, and a bunch of people like at machines. But it was really like every time you walked up to someone, they were like, hello, like I'll tell you literally anything you want to know about my entire life and what I do here. And like I'll do it in this like amazing
Factory full of brogans.
and like, it was like so welcoming. And the fact that like these people in this town, some of them even knew me from like YouTube or whatever. Like some guy that worked at Polaroid for like 40 years was like, hello, Mr. Polaroid. I was like, what the hell? Like, how is that happening? Like there were so many little moments of just pure like joy of I can't believe that I'm talking to this person right now, or you know, I didn't even know this person until today, and they're now my favorite person on the planet, and they're like live in this sort of remote place at this factory. Like, what is this life? It's so cool. I feel like I just sort of that was the biggest surprise, was feeling like love in this big cold building.
Does your wife know she's Mrs. Polaroid?
She does, actually. Lauren, you know you're Mrs. Polaroid? She says yeah. So I guess that's a badge of honor she'll take.
I was thinking about that when you were saying all this, because I was thinking, I know that you share a lot of these passions, at least to different degrees, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Lauren has a day job. She's an HR business partner as a day job. You are like the little lost boy, you know, frolicking in the film development.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Polaroid. Show some respect.
I'm frolicking though. I am frolicking.
But you are frolicking. And what is that like? Because I mean, she knows what she signed on to. Let's agree to that.
Yeah.
So what is it like though to kind of balance that? Like, honey, I need to buy this Hasselblad or whatever. Like, where are the moments of tension in this? Where's the good stuff? How do you navigate this?
That's a good question. I think Lauren over time has understood like how all this works. Like, if I'm like planning to make a video or something and I'm like going to invest in something, she knows that it's like either going to be sold or like reworked into something else. And now that we have a photo studio, a lot of the stuff that we're getting is like an investment into a business. So like there's a way to sort of rationalize that. But in the end, you're just rationalizing it. And it certainly has taken over a lot of our spaces and places, but I think the biggest hurdle initially was like, oh, you're just like when we first started like dating, like, oh, you just have like a camera at all times. Like, oh, you're just going to take pictures all the time. We're going over here and we got to go over there to take a photo now. Like that's the hump. And I feel like she's gotten a lot more tuned to that.
So now she doesn't mind that you like want to wait and take a shot of yourself opening a door.
Exactly. And I think that one of the things you learn from that process, especially when you're traveling, is like, why would you stop on the side of the road to like spend 20 minutes in this random place? But in those moments, you end up like, okay, now we've just stopped for a second. Like you can look around and you can appreciate your environment. And I think there's a lot of like environmental appreciating that happens in photography. And so the fact that we can do that together is like beautiful, I think, and something that she's like appreciated as well. And she has her own cameras too that she's picked up over time that I've randomly purchased for her without consent.
Without consent. You said this she takes precautions against unwanted cameras.
It's true, and she really shouldn't.
But then you see what develops. You said in that video when you're in the redwood forests that you were getting away and driving up north after Polacon.
Yes,
which one must presume is an instant film convention. The internet has proven that if you're into anything, like you're into like farts in a can, there's farts in a CamCon.
Farts in a CamCon is big this year, actually.
Right. Who shows up at Polacon? Is it a bunch of Williamsburg dudes or like who's at that event?
That's such a good question. So there's three different Polacons. There's Polacon San Francisco or Bay Area, Polacon Denton, Texas, which is the original one, and Polacon NYC, which is happening literally next week for the second time. It's the second version of Polacon NYC. So I honestly think different people kind of show up to each. But in general, I think one of the most interesting things of Polacon is like you've got the like heavy nerd contingent where it's like, I'm just obsessed with this. Oh my God, I'm actually talking to someone right now for the first time about this. You get some people like that. And then you get a lot of the like, I'm an artist. I don't normally spend that much time around other people who like what I do. So like it's kind of overwhelming for a lot of people. But that you end up having the best conversations with people who just like don't go out that much and converse with other people in their community. Like, I feel like
shut-ins basically.
Yeah, essentially shut-ins. And it ends up feeling like a family reunion by the end of day one every year, which I'm guessing most like cons or whatever conventions feel like. But Polaroid community is so like tight knit, and so like love based, I feel, and that's part of like why I feel like I try to make my channel like that. That the groups that come to these things are just like everyone's loving on each other by the end. In a way that's like obviously good and not.
That's where it's different than fart in a can con.
Yeah, that fart in a can con, as we know by day 3, always turns into an absolute shit show. It should stay at farts. It ends up being a shit show, which we don't love.
They got to stop holding it in a Dutch oven.
Exactly.
People are down in the dumps. I have 2 kind of inside baseball questions, and they're just observations and thoughts. One is I'm going to throw shade on. I had watched the documentary An Impossible Project.
Okay.
And I think this is probably partly how I got led to you. I think YouTube algorithm said, "Oh, we found another one of these idiots," and then sent it to you.
Yeah.
I liked your covering of the Enshad factory better than what they did with what's his name, Florian Capps.
Yeah.
It was good. It was interesting. I got where he got, but I felt like you distilled what someone like an idiot like me would have wanted and wanting to know about. So I think you had a better POV, let's say it like that. Now, this is such an inside baseball question, and you could be like, no, totally not. Were you throwing a little something at Pete McKinnon with your background with the bricks behind you and all that stuff and the backlit photos and all that? Or is that just conveniently also like what you did? You had a setup in, you called yourself Benny Bricks this episode.
Oh, yeah. No. That is sort of just the way our new studio looks.
Got it.
So
okay.
I'm trying to embrace it because we just moved last year, and I hadn't recorded that many videos in the new space. But now that like we have a new space, you can use it in so many new ways as like a shooting environment. And that was sort of me just finding that. No shade intended for Mr. Peter. I'm sure you're enjoying your Canon digital cameras or whatever you're doing.
So do you like want to hang out? Because Brogan needs some help figuring out where to shoot in his place.
I would love to hang out.
God, can you even imagine?
No. Yes.
This is the one I'm talking about.
Can, but...
Oh yeah, that was no shade intended at anybody.
This, by the way, was one of the funniest things in the whole damned world. This is the one I think where you reviewed the Polaroid Lego camera.
Yes.
And
this was one of those things where I couldn't believe they let me do this. Like the entire video kind of is making fun of it. And they were like, yeah, that's what we want. I was like, what? Okay. That's like a brand that understands what they're doing. Like Lego is a, European company that is a little bit difficult to like navigate sometimes, but they were like, yeah, pretty much do whatever humor wise. So I ended up, pretending that this camera was real, which is always the best thing to do.
Did they give you a wardrobe budget? Because that is exactly the right sweater to wear.
They did not. So luckily, I had a Lego sweater fully prepared for this very moment.
This is one of the other ones where you put in a great line that just made me laugh unexpectedly, which was, maybe he'd call me son. Maybe I would call him dad, and I was just like,
it's a lovely thought. Like maybe he would call me like son, and I would love to call Edwin Land dad. I actually do kind of call him daddy. He's like our film daddy.
He's your film daddy.
Yeah, he's been dead for 30 years, but he's still film daddy to me.
Calling us people daddy, eventually you're going to run into someone who will be happy about it.
Oh,
somebody wants to be called daddy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, somebody does. I don't know.
The reason I wanted you to come on, I totally already said this even in the emails to you, is I just wanted to love on you because like you have this channel and it is grossly undersubscribed. Let's both agree on that. It is. I looked at it and I was like, there must be about 4 zeros missing. And like, I only have like 5,000 or so subs. I've been on since 2005. So believe me, I know the pain and suffering, but
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you change topics every couple months? Because that's what Brogan does.
I'm not talking to you. Look at this.
That'll have pretension.
Look at all this. Look at all of this. This is like, look how he's got a whole purple theme one. He's got a, blue theme one. He's got a red theme one. He's doing bar. And by the way, these colors all match his other plan. This is all so considered and so thought
You
out.
want him to look at yours? Maybe he could give you
Grumpy.
some.
No, I don't want him to look at anything of mine. It's ugly. Stay away.
Stop it.
Ben, why do you do this? Because it has to just be for love. Because you have you do film and work like this for a day job. This is just in between love stuff.
Yeah.
Why does this fill your heart so much?
I think that initially discovering that you can create your own space that is like a playground was so interesting and fun to work through, especially because I started working on the channel at in the end of 2019. I was a little bit fatigued just from a huge year of production. And a lot of the stuff I did in that year was sort of more corporate stuff. And I was like, I've been really into this Polaroid stuff. I have so much in my head. I just really want to put something down. And the moment I started thinking, okay, could I do something like this? Should I do something like this? That's when the fun part kicked in of, okay, I can do this with this kind of video. I can make this the red theme and the blue theme. And I can create a universe sort of that's all to myself. And that was so fun. I didn't even have any viewers yet. I made 8 to 10 videos prior to ever releasing the channel. Cause I was like, I want to find the space. What is this? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And so that's evolved a little bit over time, but I feel like that's part of why it goes hand in hand with the rest of what I do professionally, because it's the unlimited zone of I could just do whatever. And I can make a short film that's an episode. There's nothing stopping me from just doing the craziest stuff that I want to do. And it's became an excuse. Once you have a little bit of a following, it's people might actually watch that. I can now make something that's a little bit catered toward them while still making a film is a great example. I can make a short film on any topic, but the fact that I can make one that's about film photography and have a place for it in the world that's a place of my own creation is so amazing as a filmmaker and a creative. Because a lot of people for their whole lives are fighting for any sort of audience to place something that they love. And the fact that there's anyone there to hear the crazy stuff I have to say is wonderful and fills me with a lot of joy.
Anybody besides Lauren who's thank God somebody else is going to listen to this.
Exactly. That yeah, the channel is basically everything I would have said to her put into a place away online.
All right. So I already know, because I was on your channel and this is what made me purchase. I know that the Instax Square 40 is a good one. I also am pretty much sure I'm going to have to buy one of those sprocket bastards. And
you definitely are.
I feel like I have to. By the way, the other thing that you do very well is you recommend cameras that are within the realm that people could buy and not have a problem in their relationship. Whereas I literally just heard a guy on some other video, film channel or whatever, say, you should buy this Lumix. It's cheap. I went to eBay. They're $1,500 each. And I was sort of like, that is not in my language cheap. That's,
yeah.
You can buy it, but that's not cheap. I felt like, pardon me, did daddy tell you that was cheap? Because
that's a down payment on a Kia.
That's a mortgage payment or something. So I want to give you that compliment. The other thing I want to say is, who the shit are all those people in all your photos? Who are the subjects that stand still for you? Do you have 80 very kind friends up there? Because I see all these photos of all these people looking cool, and it's not all street photos. These people stood still for you.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that being in a community that is very physical, in New York is useful, because you end up having a lot of opportunities to interact with people. At Brooklyn Film Camera, we have a gallery show once a month, and so at least once a month, I'm going to be surrounded by 100 people that absolutely love what I do. Will kind of do anything if I want to go out and take a picture or go and take a portrait somewhere. And also my friends have all become very just used to it. That this is just their life and I'm a part of it. And it's going to be something that they have to tolerate sometimes. I have a bunch of friends who I don't bother with it at all. It's not a part of our friendship at all. because I just know that it's not their vibe. So I occasionally will bring it out, but so I've just felt out the various people in my life who can I just drag over here for a second to do something. And thankfully I have enough amenable folks in my life to be able to be subjects, because I do like mixing it up. I like having like a muse where like you can try a bunch of stuff with someone because they're experienced working with you and stuff. But it's also so fun to just work with new people. And in my career in video and photo, you just meet so many people. I mean, that's another reason I love it. You end up interacting with so many interesting people. And so it's always and the camera is just a part of the way I interact with the world, I guess. So it's always in the mix a little bit.
I feel like somebody watching right now, live or otherwise, is going to be dumb enough to follow us on this journey. What's a good right down the middle? They're going to be able to point and shoot and feel happy, and we'll probably carry it on into madness like you have. What's the gateway drug you'd recommend?
That's a great question. I feel like the first camera that a lot of people would have fun with is like an Instax Square 40 kind of camera, where like you can pick it up, shoot with it. It's gonna be good pretty much like 100% of the time. It's like hard to take a bad photo with that camera. And that camera, whether it's a gateway drug into instant film or all of film, is a great like way to sort of start you in on that journey, because you will eventually probably crave more control and a way to shape an image more and a lens that can do more. It's impossible unless you're Chris to take a bad photo, but that's a good starting point.
He's always doing the impossible, Ben.
Well, that's cool. That's what we're all about here. Polaroid used to be called the Impossible Project, so that is very touching.
That's where I was leading with impossible too. That's a fine statement, Carrie. Yeah. So I think I can double down on that Instax 40. It is a fine device, and I was not steered wrong. All right. We didn't get to prep you on how we do the show, so this will be funny. I forgot to show. I was going to show just 2 other photos. Don't look for a minute, Ben. I was saying that when I started watching these street photo people, they were all like, put something shitty in front of it and like shoot a person through it. And I was like, I can do that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And then my Sony ZV-1F, I just bought a new lens. I didn't even know you could do lenses. So I have a macro.
Beautiful.
So now, like if you weren't feeling dumb enough walking around with a camera, I am now laying on my belly, like taking weird photos of weird things. Because of my
that is so cool. I love macro photography. It's so amazing. It's such a world expanding thing. I had some guy drop off a camera that was meant to photograph teeth for dentists. And it's a camera that came with like a bunch of brackets that go on the front of the camera that you basically, like, let's pretend this is the bracket. It's meant to just be placed directly like against the person's face, so that it's the same distance every time. So like one bracket stops here, one bracket starts here. And I started just walking around with that thing and using it for not teeth. And although it's great for teeth, you take these macro shots of like grass or like my dog's fur. And then when it develops, it's like, oh, that's like an entire universe that's in that fur. Like, macro is like this world that's around us that's hidden. And so it can become very addicting, because some photos are a straight capture of reality as you see it, and some photos are finding sort of a new reality and being able to make something that is almost abstract to the point of being a new reality. So
like a quantum realm,
going between the atoms in many ways. It's something of a quantum mania.
Well, like I said, we didn't really prep you for how this show ends. So
and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
We'll give it to Leslie. She's kept us in a lot of syrup.
Yes, in vanilla. Leslie makes maple syrup and vanilla. And the last time I went, was on a holiday baking spree, and I went through a bunch. She gave me a giant ass bottle of vanilla. I look like the weirdest alcoholic you ever saw.
chugging vanilla.
Just desperate. Yeah.
Heavy on the vanillas. There's another question we asked. This is the only question we've
But I
asked every
smell
guest
great.
who's ever been on.
Right, of course.
Sir Mix-a-Lot, Butterscotch, the beatbox champion, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. We ask every single one of these people one question, which is, what goes in your backpack?
Ooh.
This could be something physical. I bet you have a million answers.
Oh,
to that.
yeah.
Or it could be something metaphorical, like, I don't know, hope for the future or something like that. Carrie, what's a good example of something physical you could throw in a backpack?
Oh, let me think. I think probably a logo with me on it.
Yeah,
Is what I would pick.
Oh, I just noticed that. Oh, look at that.
That is a little sus.
What is something metaphorical you could throw into the backpack, Carrie?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness is good.
Mhm.
Ben
For not having the right logo.
Ben Fraternale, what will you add to the backpack today?
Well, I think this is an interesting question because I've lately been having sort of a moment that could be put in a backpack. And that is, as the spring has sprung, I've been sort of just something I've been putting in my backpack is the ability to take in even the smallest moments of the outdoors and the space outside and appreciate it. Just like how the light is falling through like a leaf. Like that's something to put in your backpack. Like give yourself an opportunity to appreciate the most ridiculously minor things. Because life is lived so digitally. Even if you're like exercising or something, you can just keep running and looking down or whatever. But being able to just stand around for a second and just breathe, and it helps so much with photography because you end up seeing so much more when you stop down and just stay there for a second and not try to rush through everything and just try to appreciate where you are in like the moment. And it just in doing that lately, I've like, I don't know, I've been a lot happier, I think, just because I'm just taking everything in a more like granular way and appreciating everything that's around us. That's a metaphorical one. A physical one would obviously be cameras, but the other thing, this is a specific physical thing you could bring around is a light meter, which is sounds like you would only have really one purpose. It's to read light and then use those settings to get a proper exposure in a camera. But I tend to, this is ridiculously weird behavior, but I tend to meter like all the time, just like metering things just to like.
I'm trying to decide if you're hot or not. Let me just see how bright it is in here. Yeah, probably not. Probably
no, not. But like just metering the world and like recognizing what the values of light are in various places can eventually train you in a much like in a unique way to like understand lighting a lot more. Even if you're not even using it for photography, it's like interesting to think about how harsh the sun is in one place, how deep a shadow is, what the dynamic range of the world around you is. It's funny how like you don't need to think about that stuff when you're not taking a photo, but you can, and it can help train your brain on like understanding light a little bit more, which light is one of the main things happening at all times. Like pretty much it's happening right now. You step outside, it's even brighter. It's just good stuff to think about.
Your wife's got to be like, ugh, here he goes with the light meter.
She's meter so much. We'll be in the car and I'll just be like metering out the window. Like it's silly Billy behavior.
So Leslie's happy. I like the vanilla. Chloe has a big comment. Please, this is interesting and fun. Love the point you made about creating your own space. That's a playground. +1 sub. Can't wait to get lost down
the hole.
Thanks,
Chloe's
Chloe.
in Scotland. It is beautiful where she is.
Oh, that's amazing. I gotta visit.
We also didn't tell you how we end the show, so this will be confusing for a second. But I always make some kind of random weird story about my grandmother or something. This is actually a physical photo from on my grandmother's calendar. Many of my life's moments happened right on that counter.
That's so cool.
But I will tell you, one of the things, my grampy did slide photography for many years. Everything got printed, put to slides, so we'd have slideshows. I'll tell you the weirdest thing he ever put up on it.